Awesome. So I think we had a lot of questions before the seminar started this morning, and many of them were from new grant writers. How do I get started? What's the best way to use my time? How do you find funders? And where, if you're a charity, where you can find funding, and if you're a nonprofit, where you can find funding. So I hope to address those as we go. And of course, please use the chat to fill in or add any other questions. And during our time today, well, I would like to go step by step through the grant writing process, as well as share some grant writing trends and some tips for you to use, and hopefully templates even that you can take home and use as part of your own grant writing. So we have either a poll here or we have a question in the chat. EJ, I don't know if you can start a poll here, but grant writing as crafting, which approach do you follow? Are you a cutter and a paster, or are you more like the jigsaw puzzler? It looks like we won't have a poll for this one. So jigsaw, mix of both, depending how rushed. You cut and paste, a little of both. Okay, I love it. A little of both. I strive for the jigsaw. I love that. Okay, great. Well, for me, I started out with the cut and paste model. In fact, as one of our participants on the call will know from direct experience, I actually had a team, and we researched our list of funders, and we got together, and everyone took about 10 funders. We had a bit of a competition to see how many grants we could submit that day. Hit or miss? You guys, you have any thoughts? Definitely a miss. I think that cut and paste approach to grant writing, although it seems like it saves time, isn't a real time saver. There's too much missing. I love the competition. I don't think anyone else did. Paul, did you love the competition? All right. So today, I would love to walk you through the steps of grant writing: research, eligibility, relationship building, storytelling by narrative and by numbers, and then of course, final details. It was interesting. Nice, Paul. So research, where do you find your funders? I start with a Google search. I think, number one, I think a great place to look is the Government of Canada. They've got a screenshot of the link there, and I think Ishay can add it to the chat too. But if you're looking for funding, you can see here that there's quite an easy template to follow. What kind of funding are you looking for? And it goes into each department and available grants. Some of the departments are better than others, to be quite honest, on funding, but it is a good source. If you look at your own provincial government and search for granting opportunities, there also are granting opportunities there. Now, some of them will be business focused, some of them will be nonprofit. Great place to start. One of the ones that I've found great success in is actually LinkedIn. I've curated my LinkedIn list to include sources like Sheila, like Imagine Canada, like Vancouver Foundation, like Grant Connect. There's so many sources in the charitable sector that provide great information. So often oh, my camera's turned off. My goodness, sorry. I think I'm just going to continue with the presentation then. Can you see my deck still?
Yes, we can see your deck.
Okay.
We just can't see your face. I think your camera went off.
Okay, well, I think you've got the important part then. Sorry about that, everybody. So from there, we were at LinkedIn. Charity Village, if you're looking for more detailed information, Charity Village provides a list of funders, a free list of funders on their website. Now, I have noticed that it hasn't been updated recently, but there is a lot of funders listed, and it's a good place to start. Of course, we're here with Grant Connect. There are granting databases that help significantly with research. Grant Advance, Grant Connect, Foundation Search. I've used them all, and they all have strengths and benefits. What I like about Grant Connect is primarily that it's funded, or it's part of the Imagine Canada service, so that our support of Grant Connect means that we're actually supporting the charitable sector. If these are affordable, especially even for the smallest of nonprofits. So some of the screenshots might not be great. We are adding links for you, or continue to share links, so you can access the files or look for these files directly. So here, this is just an example of what it looks like if you have the opportunity to work with a a granting database. I have worked with Grant Connect, and I search funders in community development and socioeconomic status for grantors who are interested in these giving categories in Ontario. You can see here it saves the list. I've sorted them by deadlines. I don't know if any of you are in Ontario and want to take a quick screenshot of that, but there are a few granting opportunities there. This is the type of benefit that the databases can give you. They can give you, how closely they are to your organization, what the grantor's giving interests are. So a good source there. Okay, we've done our research. Let's look a little bit deeper. So we have a foundation that's interested in supporting. And I've chosen this one here. Again, it's a funding opportunity coming up for those in Calgary. But I just want to show that the funders really want you to know whether to apply. So for those people who asked, why are there so many refusals? Or why is it so, how do I know how to spend my time? Really look at what the grantor is telling you. So in this organization, they're letting us know that the funding area is Calgary, that they're interested in children and youth, in health, education, and recreation, that they want to fund one-time projects or startup funding. The average grant size is 10,000. Deadline May 1st. And what I love about this one, applicants must discuss their project with Michelle, their project coordinator, before they go forward. So a lot of information provided there. Okay, so we've got the research. We've got a list of foundations who are ready and who are interested. And honestly, I think for new grant writers, this one is my biggest tip. If you go ahead and start writing right now, it's still a bit of a shot in the dark. So I suggest that you spend a great deal of time on eligibility. I think this potentially could be your largest time saver. So for me, there are two documents that I created for my own clients and my own work. And one I would call an eligibility brief. So this is a very high level overview of the granting process. So if you find a grant, who's the funder? What's the deadline? How much is available? What are the project dates? Who's eligible? What are the objectives? This one is really helpful if you are the grant writer and you're reporting back to your development team to see if this might be something that you can find the time for. Very, very high level, really just a scan of opportunities. I have a template that you'll either receive today or that we will send out in the chat after. An eligibility checklist. Now it sounds similar. You certainly don't have to do both, but this one is both an opportunity to really, really clearly match the funding requirements with your organization. So when I do this, I literally go through each line of the funding application and spell out the details and decide if it's a project fit or not. And then the next step is even a little bit closer. You can see that fourth column there. I start adding in elements of the project. So not only might this be your last, your most fulsome opportunity to decide to go with the project or not, but it also could start to form the template of your proposal and information required. Okay, another poll or another chance to send in your feedback through the chat. When looking for granting opportunities, I send in a template proposal. I pick a date and write as many grant applications as I can and see what happens. Spend my time researching, finding a fit, and writing a great proposal, or qualifying potential funders, foundations, scheduling discovery calls to learn more about what the funders are looking for. Anyone have any messages?
Hey, Sheila. So I know your screen is turned, your video is turned on, but we cannot see you. We are just in a blank screen.
You can't.
Yeah.
Sorry, my video is on now. So I don't know if I should stop sharing and you can share from the deck. Is that viable, or Kim there?
Let me ask him, because I think something is blocking your camera. That's just what's happening, because it's just black.
My camera is black or my screen is black?
Your camera, so we can't see your face, is just black.
Okay. Yeah. But can you see the
yeah, we can see the screen. Okay, yeah, just know your face.
I think that's good. I think that's, again, the important part.
Just when we want to share the video on YouTube, it's just going to be a blank screen, and then the presentation.
Well, I'm sorry, I've got everything on the go. I'm not certain how else to fix that one.
No worries, that's okay. I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go through. I think I used to focus on 3. Now I do 3 and 4. I like that. Yeah, sorry everyone. I'm not so good at the technology on this one. 3 and 4. So there's a lot of different ways that people are finding their funding, and people are sending in opportunities. And I guess just before we proceed here, I would ask the question, what's the difference between a foundation funder and a major donor? And if you were to think about that, I would say not much. If we were to send in a proposal to a major donor without calling them first, without telling them it's coming, without assessing their interests, it's not best practice. So why do we do that with foundations? Some foundations may not want to share all of this information. However, there might not be contact information. But like we saw for that Calgary Foundation Burns Memorial, when they do have it, please use it. Again, they want you to send in your proposal if it's a good fit. And this is a good way of telling. All right, so storytelling. We look at writing, and I just, if there's one thing for you to remember, for you to take away from this, is that grant writing isn't difficult. It's a process. Grant writing isn't difficult, it's a process. And it's the same comes down to writing. I don't think you have to be a writer to write grants. I think of grant writing as being able to answer questions, presenting solutions to problems as clearly and concisely as possible. So we chatted about that jigsaw. Follow the guidelines and make sure your narrative tells a clear and compelling story. So if you're looking at grant writing as layering, the first layer is clear, concise information that's error-free. Once you get that, then you can start building in those components of storytelling. So your numbers, your story's great, it's clear, it's error-free, you've put your own passion into there. Now we come to budget. And I've realized through granting that some people are words people, some people are numbers people. And you have to make sure that your grant application speaks to both of them. What does that mean? Most applications have budget template, so you don't have to worry about being creative. But say if in your granting narrative, you say you want to include a project for community development, that absolutely should be reflected in the budget. You want to start a community of practice, should be in the budget. So it's really that storytelling is just pairing up the numbers and the text. Okay, the final details are the first details. This is, I often leave this to the last step, but I really do feel that this is something maybe we should look at first. So many funders offer a checklist, and to look at this before you start writing is another sample or a good way to save some time. So source documents that you may require, if that's your audited financial statements or a program budget, letters of support. Again, you leave those until you're ready for approval. It's been done in the past, I know that for sure, but what I like to do now is contact letters, 4 letters of support, contact a funder at the outset of the grant writing process, ask them for their participation. And I often write a template letter for them to use as a basis for their letter of support. The easier you can make it for your partners to attend, the better it is for them. Okay, signatures, board signatures and approval. If you need 2 signatures and you're down to the wire last day before the deadline, how are you going to get them in? Again, good opportunity here for you to schedule it before. Schedule in your approvals and time to get the board signatures. The application always offers a checklist. Just use it, make sure you've got all of the attachments you need. Okay, so that's kind of my overview for grant writing. It does very much follow a process. The steps for me that I would iterate for you guys is research. There are a variety of options open, including using Google to find funding opportunities. That's great. databases available for your support. Eligibility, I would honestly say, is key for you saving your time. I think that another one would be, once we've got all of those details together in terms of, your annual statements, your budget, so on, create a folder on your drive, and those are something that you can pull out. If you've got a case for support, why not pull out your organizational statements, your mission and activities? Make those concise, practice working on those ones. They'll all be good resources for you. Grant writing trends. So it's been a crazy couple of years for all of us. And I think that through COVID and through actions around the world, there has been a huge recognition of the inequity in philanthropy, that we are missing contributions for the voices of people with lived experience. There is a movement to multi-year unrestricted funding and to simplify grant applications and reporting requirements. And then collaboration too. Some challenges are too large for one organization alone. So the first kind of trend here, and you can see we've got the trust-based philanthropy in the link there. But this is really the 6 pillars here, grant-making practices that trust-based philanthropy is promoting, and what we saw before, multi-year unrestricted funding. Funders really changing their role from being experts to recognizing the expertise of the grantees, simplified paperwork, being transparent, that they want to solicit feedback from their grantees, and even offering support beyond funding. If it's business connections, if it's business advice, that's ways to make it a real partnership. This is the Community Foundations of Canada. Again, another opportunity for you to find funders. They are a body that looks after the 191 community foundations. You can go there and search for member organizations. But you can see here their pillars really do represent that trust-based philosophy. Shifting power to those who know best, taking the long view, working collaboratively, strengthening community, really focusing on the outcomes of the organizations. Okay, purpose-driven board leadership. This is something that came from Board Source, an American governance organization, but something that was really, really impactful to me. And in fact, kind of helped me name my company Purposefully. It was so, so impactful for me personally. And really it's purpose before organization. So when charities think about funding competitions, is that right? Is that a way that we should be looking at each other and playing in the same field? Or should we be looking at it as an opportunity to collaborate? Respecting the ecosystem, that's just it. You're not the only player in the community you're working in. How do you respect the people living there? How do you respect your mission? How do you respect how your mission works with everyone? Equity mindset, again, including people with lived experience. And authorized voice and power, very similar to trust-based philanthropy in that grantors, some organizations aren't the experts. They work with people who are the experts, and that's the people with lived experience. Okay, there's a lot of information here. And I think what I'll do is just basically say that there were significant announcements in the 2022 federal budget that will have a positive impact on charity. The number one, I would say, is the proposed increase of the disbursement quota for foundations from 3.5 to 5%. This means, you know, a lot of foundations are sitting on a massive capital and they share their interest with their grantees. That amount has gone up. And the other one that I think is really interesting on the budget is, hi, Jocelyn, I see you've raised your hand. I'm just about finished this one and we'll turn it over to Tareen to answer some questions. The other one that I find is really interesting is that they finally addressed the qualified donee situation. So in Canada, foundations are only allowed to provide funding for qualified donees. And that basically means a charitable organization with a CRA registered number. The proposed changes would mean that foundations can work for nonprofits, not just charities. And I think the rationale in what they're doing is because the CRA has standards and those standards are publicly accessible, they are asking that nonprofit organizations will be able to do sort of a pre-check with the foundation so that they will, you know, check on reporting, check on budget information. So it's a bit of an equalizer that way that hopefully will provide more equity for the smaller grassroots organizations that may not have charitable status. So what does this mean for you? Well, some of this is transparent, some of it's happening now, some of it's coming. But really look for organizations that want to partner for change and impact. Simplified granting and reporting, and funding streams to address inequity. And that one you could see through some of the funding initiatives of the federal government. But still remember that grant writing is a process and all of the basics that we chatted about today does apply. So here, this is a screenshot for an upcoming granting session from Vancouver Foundation. You'll see here, first of all, it hasn't been announced yet, but look for it to come out in June. Their goals are to make it easier for equity-seeking communities to access funding, to reduce the application and reporting burden on applicants, and to increase transparency and accountability in decision-making. Talked about a lot here, and I do want to ensure that we have time for questions. I'll figure out my camera while we go off, but I do just want to say there's great information on both Aquila and Imagine Canada's website through this webinar series and through blogs. The Community Foundations of Canada, I showed that one screenshot. There's a great information of how they are hoping to move community foundations to a more trust-based model. Funder databases. Grant Connect, of course, provides lots of information. And then templates. So I did prepare a few templates. We'll check the chat to see if those went out. But if not, I'm happy to work with Ishay and Tareen to ensure you receive those